Coming up next on Arizona Horizons Journalists Roundtable, state lawmakers consider a bill that targets anyone involved in protests that turn violent, and yet another legislative attempt to make the citizens' initiative process more difficult. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizons Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Aaliyah Rao of the Arizona Republic, Bob Christie of the Associated Press, and Jeremy Duda of the Arizona Capital Times. A bill being considered by the state legislature targets those who plan and participate in protests that by design or accident turn violent. And this one is raising eyebrows around the world, Aaliyah. This is what is going on here?
Well, I think there's two components to this that I think have people concerned, maybe more, but two primary components. One, it doesn't just say if it becomes violent, it says if it may become violent or if there's any chance of it. So Senator Kavanaugh this week said, you know, we need to stop protests before they happen. So you're kind of getting the Minority Report committing a crime before it happens concern with that one. And then the second part is it adds protests and rioting to RICO statute, which then puts it under the category where you could maybe take somebody's house or take their property or take their money if they are organizing an event, or maybe you're at an event that causes a riot.
I think the concern is, I mean, if you're planning something, you know, hey, let's go throw a rock through a window. Okay, we understand that. But the idea that you are protesting somewhere and a bunch of yahoos come and disrupt the thing, you're now responsible. You could lose assets for that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what the opponent said. That's what there was a couple of First Amendment lawyers who testified at the committee hearing a couple of weeks ago I wrote about, where they said, listen, you know, this is going to have a chilling effect on free speech, let alone freedom of association and other small little First Amendment items. If you call a bunch of your friends or text a bunch of your friends and say, hey, let's get together and protest whatever, you know, the fact that the prices of gasoline has gone up too high. And at some point, that protest actually gets out of hand, they can charge you with conspiracy. Now, under the conspiracy, under the RICO statutes, you get an enhanced felony crime, criminal penalty, and you can lose physical assets.
Now, this sounds like the kind of thing that we see at the legislature every once in a while, and not too many folks maybe take some of these things seriously. It gets shelved, Senate passed this thing.
Yeah, and people are taking this very seriously. This is getting national press all over the place. We had a story on our website at the Capital Times from Howie Fisher, a bunch of national sites linked to it. It actually crashed our website for the better part of a day. So many people wanted to read about this. So this instantaneously, once the Senate passed this thing, it is all over the country. Arizona, as we have seen time and time again, is in the news for something very controversial. And I have to wonder how this is going to play with over in the House with Speaker Mesnard, and especially up on the 9th floor with Governor Ducey, who is very fervent about not wanting Arizona to get in the press for negative things, not wanting bad press.
And I guess the idea behind this is the idea that there are people being paid to protest. Now, being paid to protest, I suppose, is one thing. Being paid to turn violent would be another, would it not?
It would, and there were allegations, particularly with the riot in Berkeley, that there were individuals who came in and were paid to literally riot, break windows, and do all that. I don't know that there's any evidence that happened, but there were definitely, you know, conversations about it. There have been allegations from President Trump and from some U.S. congressmen about, you know, different protests and that individuals have been paid.
The point is that a crime already exists to penalize those people. If someone is violent, if somebody's damaging property, if someone is intentionally causing physical or even unintentionally through a riot, causing a physical injury to a person, there's assault charges, there's criminal damage charges, there are felonies available for this. So it seems more that it's driven by wanting to make a political statement. I don't know if any real protesters would be disabused of actually going out and doing something because of this, but you know, the people who would pay attention are the ones who aren't going to riot, right? The ones who would be scared are the ones who are going to riot, and that's the point.
And as Bob mentioned, this is very much a statement thing. This puts rioting, which, by the way, they expanded the definition of that in this bill to include any property damage. This puts that basically on par with terrorism in our RICO statutes, because the RICO statutes cover terrorism and a bunch of other crimes only if they're committed for financial gain, murder, kidnapping, a bunch of things like that. Despite the fact that there's a lot of these unfounded allegations of paid protesters, they didn't put the rioting under the financial gain part. They just put that above that. So it's basically terrorism, rioting, and a bunch of stuff that you're doing for financial gain.
Well, to get under the definition, you don't even have to be the one that's doing it. It could be a counter-protest that shows up to your organized event, and they're the ones throwing rocks through windows. And, back to the RICO question, you're the one who then gets criminally punished.
It is quite interesting, and whether or not it moves through the House will be interesting to watch.
And again, who's behind this bill?
Well, it's Sonny Borelli, who's a retired Marine from Lake Havasu City. It's the Law and Order group at the legislature, and there is a solid group, not only at the legislature, but the president has mentioned this, who are very upset with some of these violent protests that have happened around the United States. You might remember that last year, when we had protesters blocking the access to a Trump event in Fountain Hills, early last year, the legislature came back and made it a felony to block an access point to a political event. So they're very concerned about these things that they believe are politically motivated, and they're trying to crack down criminally on them.
And the odds that Governor Ducey right now is advising anyone who can hear him to not send this to his desk.
Yeah, I think he was in D.C. when the firestorm over this hit. I could almost hear him from here trying to figure out what to do about this bill. And it may not even get that far. We've seen over in the House some pretty controversial stuff has been shelved already this session. Bob Thorpe's anti-social justice class bill, for example, that died a very quiet death. If this thing dies in the House, it's not going to be quiet because there's already so much attention on it, but it might not get that far.
Okay, we'll see how far it goes. Right now, the idea of attacking the initiative process, we've talked about this almost every week in a variety of ways, and wouldn't you know it, this week we have a new way, this by way of Representative Don Shooter. Every legislative district, you have to, what's going on here again?
It would require a certain percentage of voters in a district, depending on what kind of ballot initiative it is, whether it's a constitutional change or just a traditional ballot initiative, to get a certain percentage of voters to sign on to the petition in order to put it on the ballot.
So basically 10% of voters in each legislative district,
Right.
which means the most remote and the most populous.
Right.
We should say that we had legislative leadership on Arizona Horizon this week, and leadership likes the idea.
And
It's not about passing something. This is just to say that if you're going to get something on the ballot, it's not just going to come from one place in the state. It's really coming from all around the state, all 30 districts, which means that half the districts are in Maricopa County, so you're still going to have extra weight with Maricopa, but it's a little more spread out and can't come entirely from Maricopa or entirely from urban parts of the state.
There's a fairly high degree of frustration with the impact of very powerful out-of-state moneyed interests coming in and basically abusing the initiative process.
All right, well, what we're trying to get to here is leadership believes that a minority of folks are completely being left out here by the majority in Maricopa and Pima counties.
Well, that's the argument. So the reality of the situation is you have to get 10% of the voters statewide currently, and they could all be from Maricopa County, to sign a petition to get an initiative on the ballot. And then you have to get 51% or 50.001% of the voters to approve it, to pass the initiative. So they're trying to change the way things are actually placed in front of voters. And if you think about it, that means that a legislative district in Navajo County up on the reservation, you have to go up there and get 10% of the electors up there. You have to get 10% of the most liberal district to get it to sign. You have to get 10% of the most conservative district, you name the location, to sign. It would make it extremely difficult to get an initiative on the ballot.
Now, we used to have a similar law for statewide candidates. It had some pretty significant differences, but for a statewide candidate, you had to get a half percentage of the voters in 3 counties to sign the petition. You could pick whichever 3 counties you want. Now, that was thrown out basically as unconstitutional. Secretary of State Ken Bennett at the time got rid of that because there's a lawsuit. They felt like they were going to lose. This is much different. The reason that was unconstitutional was because all these counties have such different populations. So, of course, you're not going to go to Maricopa. You're going to go to the smallest counties
Right.
that have 1%. The legislative districts, they're roughly all the same percentage. So the lawyer who challenged that law a few years ago told me this probably passes constitutional muster in a way that old law did not.
Possibly not, because the rules attorney in the legislature in the House said, I have equal protection concerns about this, because even though the legislative districts essentially are the same size when they're drawn, the electors are different, and it's based on how many people turned out in the last election. So if you get a high turnout district in central Phoenix versus an extremely low turnout district somewhere else, you might have to get 5,000 signatures here and 10,000 signatures there to qualify the same thing on the ballot.
Interesting. And this was not the only, I believe we have the idea of being paid, paying signature gatherers. That particular technique is under attack, and we had some passage there this week, did we not?
We did. We had a slew of bills this week. So we had, four different ones this week, and they were kind of all over the board. We had that one. We also had ones dealing with, oh my gosh, I'm trying to even remember.
There are 2 that would ask the voters to repeal or revise the Voter Protection Act,
Right.
which says the legislature can't mess with voter initiatives. There is one which would change the way signatures are gathered. It prevent you from paying per signature.
That's the one.
That's the one. And that one, the reason they pay per signature is because it's an incentive. You know, if you pay by the hour and you say, come bring me back a sheet, the guy can go sit under a tree somewhere and get 1 signature. Whereas if he actually has an incentive to collect signatures, then they collect more. The issue that they say that leads to fraud.
All right. Next week, we will discuss yet another attempt to tighten or toughen the initiative process. When we come back on this show, we will discuss the Maricopa County Sheriffs asking the feds for guidance on immigration. That's next.
I want to go, I want to explore, I want to see what's out there.
I'm living for the chance.
It's kind of mind-boggling.
It's so exciting.
And Jeremy, we are back. Let's talk about Maricopa County Sheriff Paul Penzone basically asking the feds for some sort of guidance, some sort of direction when it comes to immigration in general, but holding detainees for ICE in particular. What's going on here?
Well, it's longstanding practice that law enforcement agencies can do. It's called a courtesy hold for immigration authorities. They can hold someone for up to 48 hours after a judge has ordered them released. Now, Paul Penzone, about a week ago, he announced, we're not going to do this anymore. He's worried about legality, about constitutionality. There's actually a lawsuit challenging that. So a week later now, he's turning back to Department of Homeland Security. He maybe kind of an olive branch, but saying we need some guidance on this. He doesn't want to do anything illegal, unconstitutional, anything that would, I think as he put it, jeopardize the stability of communities.
Yes, indeed. He had a full statement here. We have a little bit more on what Sheriff Paul Penzone had to say regarding this issue. For far too long, local law enforcement has been forced to take a position without the support, guidance, and resources to accomplish our goal of public safety. This issue is far too important and has gone on far too long without a responsible, ethical, and legal solution.
That's the point. If you're jailed on a criminal offense and a judge orders you released, you can't be held any longer. What's been happening is the local jails, including Maricopa County, have been holding people on civil detainers or civil requests from immigration officials. Well, you can't hold someone in jail because someone calls up and said, hey, could you hold this guy while we figure out if we want to come get him or not? That's unconstitutional. There's been federal courts that have declared it so. Paul Penzone got some guidance from Bill Montgomery, the county attorney, last week that said, you know, this is unconstitutional, not just in Texas, but everywhere, so you got to stop doing it.
And there's a specific lawsuit in the works regarding this, is there not?
There's one in Arizona that's kind of related. It was a woman who was arrested during a protest. She was actually a U.S. citizen, though, so it's a little bit different, but it's related. And we've had several, I think, federal courts outside of Arizona, outside of the Ninth Circuit, that have ruled and kind of weighed in on this consistently about it being unconstitutional.
Now, Jeremy, some people were released when Sheriff Penzone made his announcement, late last week, by the way, I should mention. It was kind of interesting how he came out late Friday night on this. 33 people, some odd people released most still out there.
I believe so, yeah. And this is, I mean, this is kind of all, you can kind of see where the progression of all this is coming. You know, the lawsuit, the judge ordering them to be released, and Penzone is he's very uncomfortable with a lot of the illegal immigration stuff to begin with. He ran against Joe Arpaio, who had made his bones on illegal immigration, and he came in really vowing to change a lot of these policies.
And what Mr. Penzone, what the sheriff is asking the federal government to do is come up with some type of plan that says, okay, here's how we're going to deal with this legally. We're either going to, if you call us and say, we have somebody who we think you ought to screen, we'll be there in 10 minutes or an hour and some constitutional protection. So they're not held for 2 or 3 days in an unconstitutional manner when they should be released. Either figure out how to screen them quickly, have somebody here to screen them, or we got to let them go.
Penzone saying publicly what County Attorney Bill Montgomery is probably saying more quiet.
I believe so, and Montgomery was had at his press conference this week said the same thing. He says, listen, I'd like to get some good guidance on this, but this is the state of the law. It's unconstitutional. I told my client, the sheriff, that it was unconstitutional, and we'll go from there.
All right, we will go from there to municipal IDs. What are those, and why are they so controversial?
Phoenix started doing these last year, and there was actually an attempt at legislation to stop them that failed, and we're kind of back to that again this year. So this is basically a card that any City of Phoenix resident, documented or undocumented, can go and apply for and use for things like a library or other city services. It's not a driver's license, but there's some question about how are individuals using it? Are they using it to access city services that as an undocumented resident they may not have access to? And so we've seen legislation saying if you do these, you either have to follow the rules that you would need to get a driver's license, which means that undocumented individuals could not get one, or you have to make them very different. And I think there's some question about, do you do that or don't you do that, or how do you deal with it?
So cities like, Phoenix, for example, cities say this is a secondary ID. State lawmakers say they're not so sure.
Sure, and the folks in Phoenix who were pushing this last year were very adamant about how this does not let you get, state services. This is not an official government ID for use for anything except for City of Phoenix services. For if you have to talk to a police officer to be a witness and you need to show ID, something like that. Now the state folks, a lot of the folks at the legislature still have a lot of concerns about this, and this is, as you mentioned, this is the second year in a row they're trying to crack down on this, and this is the second year in a row this has failed a vote in the Senate.
I was going to say, House bill, this one, state shared revenue is at risk here for the House bill. It wasn't at risk in the Senate bill, but who cares? The Senate bill didn't even make it. Why is that?
They had a vote on the Senate bill. It's a 17-13 Republican-Democratic split in the Senate, and 2 Republicans refused to vote to it. So the vote was 13-4 and 17 against. To the 2 were Republican Bob Worsley and Republican Frank Pratt, who's from Casa Grande down south. Bob Worsley's from Mesa. I talked to Mr. Worsley. He said, listen, there's a lot of folks who don't have identification and who are, living among us. We can't just shut them out. I mean, that's essentially what he said.
So what happens to the House bill?
Well, the House bill is still moving, but it doesn't make a darn bit of difference. Well, actually, the House bill has essentially died because we're done. I mean, it could be revived. Either of these bills could be revived. Anything can live.
That's right.
But the Senate has made it clear they're not going to take it up.
Well, and they did vote, I believe, for reconsideration in the Senate. So they voted that they are going to, at some point, have another vote on this. Now, whether they're going to get any further than they did, I see, Bob Worsley, who's voted against this 2 years in a row. I don't know how you get that vote. Kate Brophy McGee, I don't know how you get that vote. So if you can't get them, the highest you can get is to 15. You have to convince one of the moderates over there, folks who are likely to continue being very resistant to this.
You need 16. I
16,
don't see him getting it.
Yeah.
So.
You're at 15 now if you get those two.
State Superintendent of Public Instruction Diane Douglas wants $17.5 million for a data system update. The governor, in his budget for this this IT improvement, gave her zero. What's going on here?
I'm not quite sure what's going on behind the scenes there, but basically her allegation is, and this is money that would go towards, again, continuing the update. I think they've been working, I can't even remember how many years, 5, 6, 7 years to upgrade the state's antiquated data system. And Douglas is arguing that if you don't give us this money, we literally won't be able to write paychecks, pay teachers, do anything. It's to that level. The governor's office has been very consistent in saying, you're going to get the money. This is not an issue, but they haven't really explained why it wasn't in the budget in the first place.
Yeah, we had Diane Douglas on the show this week, and I did ask her, how serious is this issue? And here's what she had to say. If this funding doesn't happen, are we talking about money that should be going to schools and such not going there?
That is exactly what we are talking about. We are talking about basically the defunding of public education in Arizona because we will be unable to get the money to the schools, to the districts, and to the classroom.
Bob, the defunding of public education in Arizona, we're talking billions of dollars here.
Billions of dollars that have to flow through Diane Douglas's office
Yes.
and get distributed to thousands of schools across the state. Now, will the Department of Education collapse if they don't get this money? I don't know. Is there a game of chicken being played between the governor's office and the superintendent of public instruction? I don't know. What I do know is that we're going to find out when the budget deal gets done how much money she's going to get for this. And if she doesn't get it and she's right and the checks don't come, we'll see a special session and we'll get it fixed right
This
away.
could potentially be a big deal, Jeremy.
This could be, and as Bob mentioned, the department is probably not going to collapse without this. But what Superintendent Douglas's spokesman told one of my colleagues is they're worried people are going to start leaving. They've lost some of their IT staff. They have this system that goes back to 1999, the age of Napster and VHS tapes, as they put it to us. So they're worried about this, and they're worried that even though Governor Ducey last week said, yeah, she's going to get her money, they haven't put any figures. They've gone out of their way to not put any figures out in this, and there does not seem to be a lot of trust between, Governor Ducey and Superintendent Douglas. They've had some rocky times over the past couple of years, and maybe that trust gap may not have been restored yet.
And I know that Diane Douglas said she did meet with the governor here the past few days or so. So she didn't necessarily say it was a great meeting, but she didn't say it was a bad one. So.
And we've seen some shell games over this data system funding in the past. Governor Brewer and Huppenthal, there were some games played with where the money went and which department and how it worked. And so this is not a new game that's being played, just a new administration.
All right, we had a protest at State Capitol this week regarding education in general, but education funding in particular, and just the concept of being heard for appropriations hearings in general, again, but when it comes to money for education in particular. And we do have a soundbite here from one of the protesters. This is Julie Erfle, again, at the Capitol this week, in a demonstration that basically says, listen to what we have to say.
So many of us feel as if our voices haven't been heard because quite often we seem to be the last that the legislature asks, particularly when it comes to the education budget. And that's why we're asking them today to hold a public hearing on the budget prior to the budget bills being introduced so that they know how those people most affected feel about it.
How likely is that going to happen, Bob?
Not very likely. That's not the way the budget works. The budget gets negotiated behind closed doors and then it gets rolled out, and we have a furious week and the budget passes probably. Sometimes it goes to 2 weeks. But I think the point they're making is legitimate. There are a lot of concerns. I mean, we passed Proposition 123 last year, which added a bunch of money to the schools, but they're still well below. I mean, they're 49th or 50th in the country for funding per student. There's big concerns that the ESA bills, the voucher bills, are going to siphon more money off of schools. They really want their voices heard on this.
And there's big concerns about the teacher raise in the governor's budget. That's one of the things that the protesters mentioned that they're unhappy about. Governor Ducey keeps pointing to, about $114 million in new money for K-12 in his budget, but 0.4% per year over 5 years for teacher raises. A lot of folks aren't happy about that, and I think Governor Ducey's starting to feel some heat on that.
Think so? You agree with that?
Definitely. And just, I mean, so the public knows there will be a public hearing on the budget, but not till after the budget's introduced. And the appropriations committees will have public hearings on it where the public can come and speak. But yeah, it kind of happens after the budget is introduced and deals are kind of made.
And always, as we saw at appropriations hearings and other committees this week, those appropriations committee hearings, there's not a whole slew of people. Don Shooter in the House says, you got 2 champions, you got 3 minutes each, we're moving on to the next bill.
Yeah, they do seem to be moving at the speed of, is it business? Is that right?
Of legislature.
Yes.
The committee hearings where you take public comment are not, there's a lot of show involved and not a lot of real listening.
Yeah. All right. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Monday on Arizona Horizon, the state Supreme Court considers Tucson's efforts to destroy seized guns instead of selling them per state law. And we'll hear from both sides regarding a balanced budget amendment to the U.S. Constitution. That's Monday, 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. Tuesday, Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton joins us in studio to talk about immigration policy under President Trump. Wednesday, the latest on what's happening at the state capitol from legislative leaders. Thursday, a prize-winning journalist and sociologist discusses U.S. foreign policy, ISIS, and war. And Friday, it's another edition of the Journalists Roundtable. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you. When you want to be more informed, Arizona PBS delivers news and analysis with multiple perspectives, thanks to financial support from you and
Mesa Arts Center presents the St. Petersburg Philharmonic Orchestra, featuring violinist Jennifer Coe, alongside Russia's oldest orchestra, Saturday, March 11th at 8 p.m. at the Mesa Arts Center. Tickets at mesaartscenter.com.
The Persian Room. Travel to another world, to a land of exotic aromas and period decor for a fine dining experience. The Persian Room in North Scottsdale on Scottsdale Road, 1 light north of Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. Gourmet exotic cuisine at its best.
In their final night of great performances in Paris, New York City Ballet dances 2 Balanchine classics, Ravel's Sonatine and Bizet's Symphony in C. Expect to be dazzled when New York City Ballet Symphony in C comes to great performances.
Tonight at 8 on Arizona PBS. Explore new ideas and new worlds here on Arizona PBS, a community service of Arizona State University.
Arizona PBS programming is brought to you in part by the underwriting support of local businesses. Learn how you can support Arizona PBS and grow your own business by reaching viewers like you. Call 602-496-8664 or azpbs.org/underwriting.
Coming up next on Arizona PBS, Life and World.
Your favorite PBS shows, ready to watch when you are. Anytime, any place. Find more ways to explore than ever before.